Chapter 28. At home, Doreen couldn't stop shaking. Her whole body was racked with tremors. She knew she'd been extremely foolish now that it was over. What was she thinking, confronting a killer like that, by herself? She was tucked up on the living room couch with a blanket around her shoulders. Nan, back in her former house for the first time since Doreen had moved in, sat beside Doreen, gently patting her hand. Mac, finally freed from the craziness of forensic proceedings at Lansdowne's former house, delivered Doreen a cup of hot coffee. He set it down on the coffee table before her. "Are you sure you shouldn't go to the hospital? That's a nasty blow you took on your shoulder." Doreen shook her head. "No, I'll be fine. The last thing I want is more people staring at me and asking questions." The truth about Betty had been postponed over these 30 years. Some of the questions still were not answered, but at least Mac now had the truth, once he'd heard the recording Doreen had on her phone. The entire town would be nothing but a gossip mill, rife with the latest news. She reached for the coffee on the table. Mac said, "Just wait a bit. It's still hot." She nodded. Goliath was currently curled up on her lap, but she scooped him up higher against her chest so she could cuddle him closer. She had to do everything one-armed. The other one was in a fiery agony. Nan looked at her granddaughter worriedly. "Are you sure you didn't hurt yourself? What if you broke your arm?" Doreen shook her head. "I don't think so. It'll be one heck of an ugly-looking yet colorful bruise for a while." At least she hoped that was true. Maybe she should go to the hospital, but it wasn't her way. "If and when I try to move it, and it doesn't move, then I'll reconsider the emergency room. But right now I really don't want to go anywhere." Goliath's big engine purred in her ear, and she buried her face in his fur. "Thank you, Nan, for leaving me Goliath and Thaddeus." Nan patted her leg. "You're very welcome. I think Goliath and Thaddeus are very happy with you too." Muggs jumped up on the couch between her and Nan, finding enough room against Doreen's feet for him to tuck up in a circle. Nan rubbed him around the ears. "Of course I'm delighted too. And you're making me a lot of money." She beamed. Mac, on the other hand, stood taller, his arms crossed on his chest, and glared at Nan, then at Doreen. "What will it take to keep you out of trouble? Both of you?" Nan tried to look innocent. Doreen looked up at him and smiled. Then Thaddeus jumped up and landed on Mac's shoulder, trying to imitate the look on Mac's face. Doreen smiled. "Maybe keep me out of the Begonias?" Thaddeus popped up and said, "Bones in the Begonias. Bones in the Begonias." For the first time in a long time, Doreen laughed heartily, even though her shoulder radiated with more throbbing pain. "Listen to Thaddeus," she said to Mac. "He understands." Mac shook his head and went to get himself a cup of coffee. She exchanged a look with Nan, and the two of them smiled. Nan leaned forward and said quietly, "You're doing good, Bone Lady. You're doing real good." At the word bone, Thaddeus repeated ad nauseum, "Good Bone Lady. Good Bone Lady. Good Bone Lady." There was nothing else to do but laugh. Still, Doreen would be happy to not hear that nickname directed at her again. At least not for a few days.